All right, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy time zone. This is the way.
Oh my.
May the fourth be with you. Hello, everybody. I can't see a thing in this helmet. It's true. It's true. It's completely true. What Luke says in the movies. I can't see a darn thing in this helmet. Very true. These helmets are really hard to look out of. But hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the live stream. I'm Ian Douglas. I'm a senior developer advocate at Postman, and I am joined with Joyce today. Joyce, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Joyce. I am the head of developer relations. So I'm excited. Ian, every time we get to stream together, it's always something fun. So
For sure.
glad to be here.
Yeah, and I was like the first one to say like how I want to be part of Star Wars Day, and the fact that it happened to line up perfectly on the day that we live stream was really ideal. So cool. Well, Joyce and I are gonna have some fun. We're both kind of costumed up. I've got a Mandalorian hoodie going.
You barely look like you're dressed up. I thought you were gonna take this so seriously.
Oh, seriously? Okay. Well, I've got. We're not allowed to use the actual name, but I've got like laser swords and
that's
stuff.
Pretty cool.
You're telling me I don't take this seriously? Come on. I got the helmets and stuff that I can't see a thing out of. But
well, I just wanted to stream today, and then I didn't even realize it was the day that you wanted. So this is why I'm dressed up.
That's great. Good times. But yeah, it's always fun streaming with Joyce. It kind of feels like every time we stream, Joyce, we're doing something with IoT lights. And we're definitely going to be playing around with those today. So Joyce picked up one of these lamps. I basically took the base off of mine so I can hang it across my wall. But Joyce basically picked up the same model as I have, and we're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna play around with flows a little bit, and we're basically gonna use the Star Wars API, and we're gonna like pull out some interesting information about the Star Wars API. We're gonna use APIs to control our lights. We're gonna have like a little light battle thing going on, and then we might call another API to go find some interesting Star Wars quotes and maybe do some impressions or something like that. So,
and we're gonna do a giveaway today. So we don't have Star Wars swag to give away, but we have the choice of bobblehead. Have you seen these, Ian?
Ooh, I have not.
Little hat, and then hold on, let me roll over here. Oops. Hold on. We have these. These are new as well.
Ooh, Postman hoodies.
Yeah.
I'm always down. I'm always down for a Postman hoodie. Sweet. Yeah. Good deal. So, someone's asking if you're a post droid now instead of a postmanaut. So Joyce has cleverly homemade a BB-8 costume. I went the commercial route and just bought a Mandalorian hoodie, but it's kind of dark down here, so it kind of blends in with my gamer chair. But it's got stuff on the hood and stuff like that. So
I really like your light. So mine is a floor lamp. Mine is like $100 floor lamp, and it's screwed into a base so it can stand up. But you just took the
base off. Yeah, there's a couple of screws on the bottom. You can just take the whole base off, and then I 3D printed some things to basically attach it to the light wall behind me. So I left my other lights off just so we can have just the effect of the one light that we're gonna kind of play around with today. And we're gonna have some fun, I think. So.
And if people have a Hue light bulb or like just a random smart light, can they do this, or do they need to have this thing?
So Joyce and I are going to be. That's a good question. Joyce and I are going to be using the Govee API because both of our lights are from Govee. But the same kind of principles will apply for Philips Hue or any kind of IoT controlled light bulb if it'll work over Wi-Fi. Bluetooth is a little bit trickier because they're a little bit harder to control with software APIs. But these Govee lights will actually be calling like a cloud API. And I believe our lights are listening to that API over a webhook. So when they turn on, they're actually, I believe, connecting over a webhook and watch for events coming in from their cloud saying, go turn on, go turn off, set the color, set the brightness, set the color temperature, all those kinds of things. So we're gonna deep dive on that API in a little bit. And we're going to build all this stuff in flows, and we're going to kind of show you how we do some stuff with environments. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Before we get into that, though, we like to have a little segment called "In Case You Missed It." And so we're going to showcase some of our recent blog articles. We've got blog.postman.com, which is a really great sort of resource. We've got a lot of team members now they're blogging on a regular basis. We'll drop this in chat for everybody here. Dropped it over on LinkedIn as well. And we're going to highlight just a couple of these today. And Joyce, let's start with this one. So we've got the collection templates. This actually came out several weeks ago, and we've talked about it really briefly in an introductory way before, in case you missed it. But you're actually working on one of these collection templates now. So why don't you give us like a bit of background on this?
Yeah, I think there's already a few types that are out already. I'm not sure. I'm guessing like testing documentation. So when you're creating a template, you don't have to start from scratch. It's going to be some boilerplate themes. And so I'm working on infrastructure right now. So like if you're working with Google Cloud Platform, Azure, AWS, how do you set up your instances, your storage, like all of that stuff by API? And so just giving you some boilerplate starter templates, I guess. That's what they're called, collection templates. And then I think we're coming up with some other templates too. So it just gives you a head start.
Yep, very cool. We're also working on making API authentication a little bit easier in Postman. So one thing that we often, struggle with is like, how do we get our API keys? Where do we find our API keys? We're starting to do a little bit of work now as a company to detect, hey, this is this particular company. We know the link that you can go to your dashboard. And so we've actually made that a little bit easier. We will auto detect a couple of sort of partner APIs that will basically be able to point you directly to your dashboard where you can go get an API. So you can read about that in those blog posts. Next week's live stream is going to be about OpenAI's Open API. It's just really hard to get those words out because they're very similar. But that's going to be our live stream next week. And Joyce, you were mentioning they're using what was it, lane change?
LangChain. Oh my God, that's so hard to say too. It's like OpenAI Open API with LangChain. So anybody that's working with large language models like GPT, Llama, and what's that last, Lambda, like any of those, you can connect multiple LLMs and vector databases. So LangChain is very hot right now.
Awesome.
And we do have some comments in the chat. So I think there's some sarcasm. I'm guessing this is sarcasm. Someone is commenting about some high quality costumes. Thank you, LinkedIn user.
Yeah, I mean it's Arlemy, but yeah, it was Arlemy.
Of course it is.
Appreciate that. So Joyce handmade her costume, and I went the commercial route and just bought a Mandalorian hoodie. So gotta
looks good though.
This is the May. So yeah, Star Wars Day. So someone else was asking like, what is Star Wars Celebration Day? And basically it's May the 4th. So it's the 4th day of May, and the Star Wars catchphrase is "May the Force be with you." And so we go with May the 4th as Star Wars Day. And then of course tomorrow's Cinco de Mayo, and then the Revenge of the 6th. For Revenge of the Sith on the 6th of May, all kinds of fun stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, we've also got an intergalactic session coming up at the end of May, just to kind of get back on topic here. So Carson and I just did an introduction of what is Postman for developers, and at the end of the month we've got a team coming in, and they're going to do a more intermediate and advanced level talk on getting into API testing. And getting into like automation techniques and so on. It's free to register. So we do we do recommend that you go ahead and register for that. If you register on Zoom, then you'll get a copy of the video afterwards. And then we also put those videos up on YouTube as well. But we put a lot of work into these webinars, and we run them about once a month, just to help with the education side of what is Postman, how can we use Postman really effectively and be really productive as team members, and so on.
Yeah, that advanced API testing one is going to be me and Arlemy. So sarcastic LinkedIn user and myself. And I was thinking, like, we have a bunch. I mean, Ian, you just did one for intro to developers. If you have that link, if you want to drop it there,
sure.
You can catch up on the recording. But those come maybe like once a quarter, once every half year. But I mean, we have intro to testing as well. But let's take it to the next level. So if there's people that already know how to test in Postman, that's a good one for the end of May.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Let's yeah, I will go find that video here in a moment. Or maybe Arlemy, if you're around, if you can go find the YouTube video. We just published it this morning for the Intergalactic that we did last week. Cool. All right. Well, let's dive in on today. So today being Star Wars Day, we wanted to get into some Star Wars light controls and Star Wars APIs. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to show a little bit of what we've got. We've actually got this as a public-facing workspace, and so if anybody wants to go check this out, I'll grab a copy of this, and I'll drop this in chat for everyone as well, if you want to kind of see what we're up to and what we're going to be working on today. We've basically forked the Govee API version 1.8, so they're constantly going in and they're making changes to it. And the lights that Joyce and I both have, we're going to have the ability to turn them on, turn them off, set a brightness from 0 to 100%, and set a color, which needs a red, green, and blue value. Or we can set a light temperature, which is kind of like the cool or warm sort of state. We can also say, go get all of the devices for a particular account, and we can also get the state of a current device. So we're going to talk through a little bit about what's going on in here. We're going to build up a flow as we kind of get going here. And then we're going to hit the Star Wars API. So the Star Wars API is actually a public-facing API that you can go call, and there's all kinds of interesting lore and trivia and things like that. And so Joyce and I were trying to think of, well, how can we like make like a little battle kind of thing going on here? And so what we thought we would do is we're going to call the Star Wars API to go get a list of all of the planets in the Star Wars universe, and there's like 60 of them. And so what this is going to do, I wrote a little bit of test code that basically says go get the count of the planets and then go pick out 2 random numbers from that, and then we're just going to store those random numbers, and then we're going to basically look at the population of the planet or something like that, and whichever one is greater than that person's like the winner. And so we'll have the lights kind of blinking and flashing while we're doing a little bit of work. So we're going to kind of build this up in Postman Flows today to access these APIs and access this code. So if you want to take a look at it, you can check out that workspace that I shared in chat.
So I will say, like Ian, you said you forked Govee's collection, but Govee doesn't have a collection. They have a PDF.
Yeah. So community members have gone through and like they've actually built out this API within the Postman API network, and so we've forked off of that. And so I think Joyce, you recently went in and you made some updates to it as well, right?
Well, so I think this one's v1.8, and they released the PDF version of v2. But
okay.
Ian, my costume is making it really hard to type. I dropped a link in the private chat. Can you drop that in there?
Absolutely. Yep.
I believe the community member that might have created this, it actually might have been a totally random community member, but there is a public workspace that another Postman employee created. So if you don't have a Govee light, but you have a Philips Hue bulb or like a Elgato key light or Nanoleaf or something like that, there is this public workspace that has a couple different brands. That's a cute little toggle.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Very clever. So yeah, so this collection's actually got quite a lot in here. They got the Philips Hue, they got the Elgato, they got even Nanoleaf, and all the authentication and all that kind of stuff that you'll need. So that's basically where we've forked over the Govee light control from that API. I didn't realize they had version 2 out. I'll have to go see what that entails. All right, so I've already got a few of these things kind of in place. So for example, I can go in here and I've currently got an environment set up both for my light and for Joyce's light. So I'm going to do everything on my machine. Joyce will kind of like add some commentary and give some background kind of as we're working here. But I basically made an environment both for Joyce and myself. And what we store in these environments is we have the API URL that we go connect to for Govee. And then we each have our own API key, and then each light has its own machine address that they call a MAC address. And then there's also a device code. And you need the combination of all three of these in order to actually control that light. And so we're storing these values in current only, so it doesn't synchronize to the Postman cloud. So anybody that's coming in and looking at our May the 4th be with you workspace, you'll be able to see these environments, but you're not going to be able to see the current values that I have set because these current values only synchronize on my machine. If I put a value inside the initial value, then anybody would be able to see that on the public workspace. But I made it public just so you can kind of see what we're going to be working on. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to turn on flows.
Don't leak my secrets, Ian.
No, I wouldn't dare leak your secrets. So we're going to come in here. We're going to turn some of these things around here. So I'm going to set this brightness to about 50% for mine. So for example, I can go over here and I can change the environment to be my environment. And when I send this, it's going to change the brightness of my bulb back here, or my light. It actually dimmed a little bit. And so I can come in here and I can say, set the color to a random color. And I can click on that and we see it just changed to blue. I can click it again. It made it orange. I click it again and it made it kind of purple, magenta sort of color.
It's very, very slight change. We do have a comment. Arlemy is asking what MAC address. I believe MAC address has its roots in Kraft macaroni and cheese. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's a machine address code, and it comes from old Ethernet days. If you study the networking OSI model, you're basically going from like a software layer down to a hardware layer. And the hardware layer is basically like, how do I get to this unique piece of equipment? And every Ethernet device has its own sort of machine address code. And these lights also have their own machine address codes. And they just call it a MAC address for short, even though address is part of the name MAC. It's the machine address code address.
I thought it had something to do with Apple products like Mac.
Oh no, it's this actually predated Mac as far as I recall from way back in college days. So we need the API key, the MAC address, and then the actual device. And so if I come in here, for example, and I say, go get all the devices for an account. Let's go look at all of the devices that Joyce has.
Oh no, my devices.
And again, it's okay that we're kind of exposing the device and the model number here because you would also need to have Joyce's API key in order to control Joyce's light. But we can see here a little bit of information about it. It lets us know what we can actually control through the API on these lights. Now, the mobile app has way more settings and things where you can have the light, listen for ambient sound and it'll flicker based on music and things like that. But with their public cloud-facing API, all we can do is we can turn the lamp on or off. We can set the brightness, we can set a color, or we can set a color temperature. And for the color temperature, it's basically giving us a range of whatever this 2000 and 9000 value is. I want to say like the lower the number, the colder the light is, and the more it's more like a blue color, where the higher the number, it's more like into the orange sort of warm color glow that you can commonly set on other broadcast lights.
I am a bit concerned. So when you just revealed my MAC address, it's not like an IP address, right? Where you don't want to leak your IP.
Right. So a typical MAC address, like when we were just talking about Ethernet, that typical MAC address is only 6 of these bytes. But the MAC address, I believe it's only 6 bytes. But the MAC address for these Govee lights is actually 8. So yeah, it's different than an IP address. So you would have no way to like physically say like go connect to this physical device. Again, because it's controlled over an API, you need to have the model name, but you also need to have the API key, which we've hidden. So no one would be able to control the light except for anyone who has that API key. So.
And that's kind of different. So Govee, you called it a cloud API because the call is coming from not inside the house. It's going to Govee servers and then coming to my house. It's coming from your house, Postman to Govee servers in the cloud to my house.
That's right.
And we don't live in the same house. But normally, like when we had streams on like Nanoleaf or Philips Hue, it's always on the local network, right?
That's right. Yes. So like my Nanoleaf, that all works over my local network. It just connects to something on localhost. The Nanoleaf actually has its own sort of web server built into one of the control panels, and you connect to that on a port number, and you still have to authenticate to that with an API key. But it is all on your own local network. So like I was saying, I think these Govee lights actually listen on a webhook because it happens really, really fast.
Okay.
And there would be no way for them to be able to push that to the lamp. But for the lamp to constantly ping back to them every second saying, do we have any work, like that polling sort of mechanism would create a lot of chatter, which I don't see on my network. I run network analyzers and stuff like that to see what my devices are doing. And I don't see that kind of chatter. So that makes me think that when I turn the light on, it actually establishes a webhook to their server. This is all conjecture. I don't know this for a fact. But I think it's setting up a webhook so that when the Govee cloud says, hey, Ian wants to set you to purple, that the light kind of gets that event happening and it knows what to go do with that right away.
Okay, it's a different setup.
Yeah. So for example, if I set my environment to Joyce's light and I hit send, that happens within like a second or two. Like it happens really quickly from, even from what I'm watching on our streaming software. Yep. Yep, we can see it back there. Yeah, don't tip it over.
What? Okay.
There we go. So we can, there we go. I just made it like a nice dark purple color. So yeah, so I've got some JavaScript code in here, which is just randomly setting the red, green, blue values and then returning that. So when it sets this in the body here, it sends that over. So I'm using a pre-request script here that will execute this code, and then it will actually go call the Govee code. And so what I'm doing in here is I'm saying, go set these values of red, green, and blue. And then I'm console logging it just so I can do a little bit of debugging. And then in the body, because I'm setting these variable values using pm.variables.set, in the body, we can just use the handlebars syntax here and actually extract those values. And so that's actually going and grabbing those random values that I'm setting in the pre-request script to then go send that red, green, blue value over to Govee, and then Govee pushes that event to Joyce's light or to my light.
Thank goodness. I like how they're using RGB. I feel like some of the other light providers use something very niche, and like converting that is an issue.
Yeah, I think my Nanoleaf, there's a way that you can push like the hex code. Like if you do HTML and CSS, you can have the 6-byte hex code for like red, green, blue values. There is a way that you can convert that into this sort of structure of like an individual red or green or blue value, which you can also push to the Nanoleaf lights. But the Govee light, it needs to have the RGB values here.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've got that set up just so we can set those. And again, I can come in here and I can choose my environment and I can push that color. And I just made mine a nice bright blue over here. So we've got that ready to go. And then all the devices for the account, because I've also got a light strip on my ceiling as well. This is my light that you see kind of propped up here. And then I've got another one up here. It's one of those rope style lights as well. But again, with the public API, they're a lot more limited. So I can turn it on or off. I can set the brightness, the color, or the color temperature. But the mobile app, because the mobile app is using Bluetooth, it has a lot more control over like setting the animated patterns and things like that you can commonly set on these kinds of lights. Now, if it's a Philips Hue bulb, you're not going to have like, animated kinds of effects with a single light. But because this is a whole strip of LEDs, you can get into some really interesting animated effects and so on. Cool. So we've got all of that set up and ready to go. Our Star Wars API over here, this is basically where we're going to go fetch all of our planets. But what I did something a little bit different here, where we wanted to call all of the planets. And I think I might need to modify some of this code. I think it maybe didn't synchronize properly.
Do you know where I'm from, Ian?
You're over in Northern California.
No, I'm sorry. My costume. Do you know where I'm from?
Oh, yeah, you're BB-8.
Do you know where I'm from?
Yes, you're from Boulder, Colorado, actually, where they developed it.
In Star Wars land, do you know where I'm from?
Oh, no, not in Star Wars
land.
Wait,
okay, so if anybody from the chat knows where BB-8 is from. To be fair, I'm not a Star Wars person. I prefer Star Trek, but I Googled like how to make costumes for Star Wars. So if anybody knows, we might have a prize in it for you.
I 3D printed this. It's the wrong franchise for today, but I 3D printed a little Vulcan salute.
We'll have to have like a Star Trek episode then.
Yeah, there's no Star Trek Day. Yeah, I've plenty of friends.
Oh, we got a winner! Winner! Chicken dinner.
All right, so BB-8 comes from Tatooine.
Tatooine, yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I don't know. How do we do a giveaway on this? Do we just reach out or?
Yeah,
ping us on Twitter.
Yep. So
Juba, let us know on Twitter that you win something, and then we'll send something to you. Thank you.
Yep.
Tatooine.
Sweet. All right, so I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna make some changes to the code here because originally I was trying to grab all 6 pages of all the different planets, but we actually don't need to do that because we have the planet count. We can just grab a random number or a couple of random numbers here. So I'm going to modify some of this code in real time so you can kind of see how I'm doing this. And then we're going to jump into flows and we're going to start putting this together. So when we call this URL with the Star Wars API, we basically find out, okay, we've got a count of 60 different planets in the Star Wars sort of universe, no pun intended. And they all have different names and they've got different populations. Some of the populations come up as unknown. And then they have like notable residents, like who grew up on this planet.
Like me.
Yep. So we're going to basically extract this population value. But because we know we have 60 of these planets, this API, if I want to go find like planet number 14, I need to know that ID value. And then I can go grab just that one value. Joyce, do you know what Kashyyyk is?
Nope.
Do you know who comes from Kashyyyk?
Okay, let's read. Jungle, forests, lakes, and rivers. Tropical. Is it from the first trifecta of
you hear about the planet. I think you see the planet in I think episode 2 or episode 3, but you don't see it in the original trilogy. But Kashyyyk is the planet where Chewbacca comes from. That's where the Wookiees
Okay, so LinkedIn user is guessing Wookiees. That's what I would have guessed. Oh,
yep.
Okay. Well, I should.
Yep, that's right. So congrats to Christoph over on LinkedIn for that. So we did a giveaway earlier for a bobblehead. So definitely keep chatting with us. So we have to. I love those meme videos though, where like someone's like dragging a chair across the floor and it sounds like Chewbacca. Yeah. Anyway, what we're going to do here is we're just going to go get all of the planets, and then this test code is going to run afterwards. And because we know that there's 60 of them, we just need to go grab 2 unique planet IDs out of that range of 60. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say planet 1 is going to be a random number. And so I've got a random number block of code in my set color over here. I'm going to go grab this really quick. This is going to allow me to pick a random number from a beginning to end. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say a random number from 1 through our planet count. And so this is basically going to go grab one random number from 1 to 60. And then because Joyce and I need different planets, because we want to make sure that we don't randomly pick the same planet and end up in a tie, I'm going to say planet number 2. I'm going to set this to be equal to planet number 1's value to begin with. And then I'm going to say while those are equal, so while planet 2 is equal to planet 1, then I'm going to go pick another random number for planet number 2. So they're going to start out the same, which means we have to go into the while loop at least one time, and then we're going to say go pick a random number. And if it happens to be the same, it'll go pick another random number, but hopefully it'll be different at that point. And then we're going to save these probably in a collection variable that we can actually go extract later on. So
it's so interesting how there's a very straightforward task. Well, it's a very it's a task. You're trying to pick from a randomly from an array, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 60 different ways you could do it. So interesting to watch somebody else do it.
So we're going to grab planet 1 and planet 2, and we're going to set those as collection variables. So now if I go run this code, so that ran okay. If we come back up here and look at the collection and we look at the variables in our collection, now we see that we've got planet number 1 and planet number 2. We
Come
actually
on,
have
planet 18.
Yeah, so we've actually got those 2. So now we can actually go say, okay, go get planet number 1. And so this is where we're going to use that that ID value that we've extracted into a variable. If I hover over it, we can see that's coming from our collection, and it's going to pull up planet number 59. And then planet number 2 is going to be planet number, oops, I need to set that to planet number 2. Save that. Got to make sure I save all my work over here on these things too. So now if we come over here and we say, go get all the details for planet number 1, now we can go get that planet. And I've never heard of that planet, but it's got an enormous population. And we go get planet number 2. We pull that up here, and that has a slightly smaller population here. And so what we can do now is we can actually compare these values and say, whichever one is bigger, like that person's sort of going to be our winner. And so what I'd like to do now, Joyce, is go over to Flows and start adding these requests as Flows blocks. And maybe you can like walk me through a little bit of like how we can do some of these things or set variables or go get some of these values. We'll play around with this a little bit. Meanwhile, some people are digging on your costume.
So. Oh, Gurpreet, thank you.
Yep.
It's so very uncomfortable, and my head is sweating under this metal bowl.
So Joyce put a lot of effort into her BB-8 costume. So so when I mentioned earlier that BB-8 actually came from Boulder, Colorado, Joyce, do you know what what was it called? It was like this little robotic ball,
like the
Sphero,
like a light up Sphero, yeah.
And so that company's actually here in Boulder, Colorado, not far from where I live. And they were actually the people that created a much larger version of it for the BB-8 droid in the Star Wars movies. So it was
actually a real ball. I thought it was a person in there.
It's a real robot. No, it's a robot. It's only about this big. It's a little bigger than a basketball. It is a real robot that they would actually roll around in the sand. Yeah, it's actually like
this big.
Controlled.
I thought it was bigger. Have I never seen this?
Like the size that you actually see it in the movie, that's the actual robot.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yep. So they actually developed that out here in Colorado. So extra little Star Wars trivia for you.
Maybe we should buy one and expense it for the next live stream.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
If it's remote controlled via API.
I mean, we might be able to. Ooh, that would be fun. Control a little robot through an API.
I bet it is API. Yeah.
Someone says it's a very, very small little child running around in the ball.
Is that Arlemy? I can't see who's saying these things.
No, that was someone else. That was Christoph again.
So I didn't realize. I feel like in my mind, BB-8 was a huge. Maybe it's because I see people dressed in the costumes.
No, BB-8 was a
very small child.
Very small. Okay. That would be an extremely small child in that little ball. More like a hamster or a gerbil or something.
Aww.
Maybe a guinea pig or something in there. Cool. All right. Well, let's go over to Flows and let's start planning this stuff out here and figure out how we're going to build these things. So we're going to need a track to basically build out. So we're going to do a Star Wars light battle.
Dual battle. Yes.
Dual.
Either
dual
or.
Battle.
Battlestar Galactica battle. Okay.
Battlestar Galactica is the wrong franchise here, Joyce.
Okay.
All right, so we've got our start button, and basically everything that we chain off of here will happen when I click on this run button down here at the bottom. And so we're going to need to do a couple of things. We need to go get those planets, and then we need to for each planet we need to extract the population if we know the population. So that's another interesting thing here. When we go get all of these planets and we go look at the response that comes back here, sometimes that population isn't actually set to anything. It'll actually be a string that says unknown.
Oh, they didn't participate in the Star Wars census.
I guess
unknown.
So we're going to have to account for that as part of this. We're going to have to try to figure out, like, if one planet has a population and the other one is unknown, do we pick another planet, or does the unknown one win, or does the unknown population automatically lose? We're going to need to set up a rule for that one.
So you know what I just realized, because I see that the name of this planet was Hoth. I just realized that the Postman conference rooms are named after Star Wars planets.
This is true. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
This makes sense.
All right, so we're gonna have to try to figure out how we're gonna compare these in flows.
Okay.
So let's start by adding a block here, and we're gonna start with so the search bar that comes up. This is asking us what kind of block we want to do. So we're gonna make a request here. We want to send a request, and let's see. We're gonna need to do 2 different requests here. So we're gonna chain off another one here.
Can you make me pink?
Can we change the colors on these?
Yeah, if you hover on the top left, there's a palette.
Ah,
Make
fun.
me pink,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
All right. And let's see. I will make mine not pink. I'll do green. All right. So we've got this. I'm going to zoom out just one little spot there. Hopefully everybody can still see that. Okay. All right. So we need to go in and we need to add the request, and we also need to pick an environment while we're working on this. So I think, Joyce, how should we start our light battle? Should we start with the lights turned off? Should we send like an off request to turn
Well, they're
off our
both on
lights?
right
And
now,
then,
so yeah, let's turn them
okay.
off.
All right. So I'm going to choose my environment for mine, and I'm going to choose Joyce's environment for hers. And then we need to pick which actual request we're going to do. When we click in here, we've got access to all of the collections that we've added in our workspace. And so we're going to go, let's see, we're going to do device
That's really nice.
control.
You can use different environments.
Yeah. And so that way, so I've got all of your credentials set up on yours, and I've got all my credentials set up on my environment. So now when I send this, when I actually hit run, right now, it'll turn off my my light bar back here. Now it's asking, it'll allow us to override these values, but hopefully these are going to get picked up from the environment. So now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the same request for Joyce. I'm going to go into device control, turn device off, and I need to make sure that this is using your environment here. So this is interesting here because it's recognizing that we've got the same request, but I'm trying to use 2 different environments. And so it's asking for confirmation. Do I want to update the environment for all of them? And I don't want to update all of them.
No,
I just want
thanks.
to update this one. So my block up here is still using Govee Ian, and the one down here is going to be Govee Joyce. And so if I use this run command, you should see both my light and Joyce's light turn off. So let's try that real quick. Ta-da. All right. Cool. So now from here, what we want to do is we want to chain off the success, like that worked. So now we want to go get Joyce's planet, and we want to go get my planet. So we're going to come off the success here, and we're going to do another send request. Now, the Star Wars API doesn't need authentication at all, so we can just go call that request. Now, one of us is going to have to go call the thing that actually goes and does the randomizer to pick a random planet. And so I'm going to do that off of mine, if that's okay. So I'm going to come back into here. This is not the one I want. I want to go all the way back to the top level, and I want to go to our Star Wars API, and we're going to say get all planets. And then that's going to go run, and then it's going to randomly set the planet 1 and planet 2 variables at the collection level. And then that's a
yeah, Ian, you can set a block that does that math. You could do a eval, if I'm not mistaken, and then use the FQL. Yeah. Evaluate. Okay, that has to take something. Yeah. So maybe one send request to the Star Wars API, and then you say, pick something. I don't know how to write FQL.
Yeah.
Flows query language. Yeah.
So in here, then we can look at the at all the request and the response data here. So it's actually going through and it's examining, everything about that request. So from the body, let's see, we have data blocks. We want to
in the FQL query, say pick a random number between like whatever it is. Like, just write it in human language. Like
so we want to pick a random number from 1 to the count value in the response body.
And then hit the little wand in the top right. Or yeah. Okay, and then generate FQL. Let's see if it knows. I don't know.
Let's see
you have a very specific query.
So it did a random from 1 to a count of value1.
Of value1. So value1 is body. So if you know the property name within body, you'd have to update your FQL query. It doesn't know count within.
I see. So we still need to know how to decode the actual request. So should I run this first? Is that how Flows will learn what the structure of data is that's available inside a body?
Yes, if you don't have an example saved.
Okay. So I'm going to go run that. And now if I come in here, now I've got access to body count. So we'll set that body count to our value, and then we're going to pick a random number from 1 to that value. Cool. So if I run this again, then we should see a result come in. So the array must be a list of any, but it got a number.
So value1 is just the entire body coming through? I think you need to set a key.
Yeah, value1 is set to body count, which is the count of planets. But I'm wondering, can I just set this to value? Because we're not actually counting anything in there. So let's try that real quick. So it gave us a random number of 0.358.
Oh, yes. So I got stuck on this. It has to do with how it does the math random.
Right. So math random will typically do from 0 to 1. Yeah. So
you have to like add something, right?
You have to multiply it by the by the number of the count. So if we multiply that by value1, but then we have to turn that back into an integer. So we'd have to do, if we were doing JavaScript, we'd say parse that as an integer, but I don't know if we can do that in Flows or not. Doesn't look like it's going to let us do that. All right, so we'll skip that part for now.
Okay.
So we know that once this runs, we actually get those 2 values, because this is still going to go run the test code.
Arlomi suggested times 100. Is that? I feel like it is like a times a flat thing, flat quantity. No.
Times 100.
That just moves the decimal, but then it'll still be a float. No.
Yeah. So the random number is always going to be between 0 and 1. So it's always going to be like point, something. But we still need to modify that based on the planet count, because if we just multiply it by 100, we could potentially generate a random number of like 0.8, right? Which when we multiply it by 100 would be 80, and that's not going to be a valid planet ID because that's greater than 60.
Too much maths. Too much maths.
Too much math, not enough coffee. So yeah, we're just going to pull that off of here. And so once that succeeds, because this block is actually going to go execute that test code that I've got, we should have access to those planet values as those collection values. So now we want to go call a new request. And this one is going to be the Star Wars API. And Joyce, do you want to be planet 1 or planet 2?
I'm planet 2.
You're going to be planet 2? Okay, so
I was already hoping for planet 2.
All right. So this should give us all of the information then for planet 1, but we have to make sure that we get the value for planet 1. We need to tell that this is coming from a collection. So we're going to need to figure out how can we grab this collection variable value. Can we do that within Flows? Joyce, do you happen to know if we can get a collection variable value in Flows?
Collection variable value?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm storing planet 1 and planet 2 as a collection value. So I'm trying to think of how it's going to know how to do that. So maybe it'll just work. We'll find out. All right. So let's go send that same request for you. We're going to go hit the Star Wars API. You're going to be planet number 2. Let's just go run this. Let's see whether that's actually going to work for us.
Do you want to log anything?
You know what? I just realized we're going to have to chain yours off of the success up here, because we can't go get your planet number 2 until we actually go call this request.
Okay.
So I need to
delete,
break that, and I need to connect it down here instead.
So that green block should not be green. It should just be like gray block, because it's both of ours.
Correct. Yep. So we'll go make that one gray. All right. So from there, so we have planet 1, planet 2. Now we can actually go log what we actually get back here.
Oh yes.
So
please.
if that succeeds, then we will do a log block here, and we can actually log what's going to come back. So if we run this, we can now open our console down here in the bottom left corner, and we can actually see what came back from that request. So we get a body back here. Look at that body. And it looks like it came back with a single planet. So that worked just fine. So it knew how to go find that planet 1 as a collection variable automatically for us. We didn't have to do anything special for that. So now that we've got that, now we need to extract the actual population out of that.
Okay.
And then we need to compare those, and then we'll turn on our lights at that point. We'll set some colors. Maybe we'll blink them on and off or something as part of that battle, or we'll just turn them on.
As rapidly as possible. We'll just like link on it, like on, off, on, off.
Yeah, something like that. We'll figure something out there. Okay, so if that worked, then we need to evaluate. So there's an evaluation here that we can do where we need to look at the population of this. So because we ran this, we already have all of the, the name and the orbital period and the diameter, like the size of the planet and so on. But we want to look at the population here, which is coming back as a string. And we want to know, so we need to evaluate a couple of things. We need the FQL here to basically say, go interpret this as an integer, but if the string says unknown, set the integer to 0.
Okay.
So we'll start writing that query. We'll say something like, if the population value is unknown, set
set what?
Well, we want to reset the population. So set the population to 0. Otherwise, set the population to the integer value.
Will this work?
I don't know. Okay. We're going to find out. So we click on the magic wand and we see whether this is going to work for us. So it's going to generate some Flows query language for us. And this is all using some AI for us. So we're evaluating the string. If it's unknown, we'll set it to 0. Otherwise, we're going to interpret that as a number of that value.
Okay.
So that should work out okay.
Looks right.
So I'm going to duplicate this. Thankfully, the Flows team has this duplicate thing in here. So can I come in here and I guess it doesn't know how to duplicate that down into here, but I can just grab this FQL and I just paste that in here. All right, so now if we go run this, we need to set that to population, and we should be good to go there. All right, so mine evaluated okay. Joyce's did not. Argument X must be a string. So we might need that log in here again to see what we logged for Joyce. So we'll go pull up a log block just so we can see what happened with Joyce's run. So I'm going to open up my console. I'm going to clear everything out here, and we'll kind of watch everything that happens. So we're turning off the lights. We go get all the planets. We update the collection variables. Oh, updating collection variables using Flows is not supported.
Okay.
Oh, bummer. So it's going to use the same planets over and over. So we might need to evaluate a different way of, we might need a different way of doing that. But what we got here, I still want to evaluate what we got here. So your population was actually a number, and it actually passed that time. So, all right. So we're still going to have to figure out how can we go get those random numbers based on this. So we're going to need to inject something in here to go calculate.
Inject something into which one?
We need something like once we send the request saying like go find out how many planets there are, we're going to need an extra block in here that says go pick a random number to feed into my side of the flow, and then go pick a random number to feed into your side of the flow. And we'll take those in as these input values here for planet 1 and planet 2.
Okay.
So we're going to need to add an extra block in here. So we're still going to need...
Scroll the blocks. I want to see the blocks. It's very small.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a random?
It would be nice if there was a random, but there's not. So all blocks, we can send a request. There's a delay. There's an if, there's an evaluate. I have a feeling it's going to be part of the evaluate one.
Evaluate, yeah.
Output, but there are data values, but that's just going to extract a single data value.
Data
we still
piece,
need
yeah.
to process that in some way. So it looks like that's all we're going to have here. So we're going to have to do some kind of evaluate on there.
Eval.
Okay, so our path is going to come from body count. And then inside of here, we're going to do something like pick a random number between 1 and value 1.
Max S, we're going back to the math. We have more math. Please help. 1 and value 1, okay.
So let's see what this generates for us here. So give us that random value. And then what we can do is we can take that result. I'm going to move this block over here for a minute. And we can actually bring that in here as our planet value. So I believe we can drag that down here and connect that. And then that should send that result in here as that value, if I remember right.
When you were on the evaluate block, it had like a little premonition at the bottom of what the number would be, and it was a decimal. Isn't that the issue we ran into last time?
Yes,
See
correct.
at the very bottom?
Yep. So we're still going to need some way of multiplying that by value 1, and then we're going to need to process that as an integer.
I feel like I did this along in a world far, far away. Let me see if I could type around my belly. Ugh.
So we do have some snippets in here that we can look at as well. The Flows team has also got some snippets.
Yeah, let's see.
So we can parse a string to JSON. I want to parse it as a number, though. Check if 2 strings are equal. Check if a string contains another string. Just kind of curious what the language looks like here. No, that's not what we want. Okay, so if we take that and we multiply it by value 1, oops. And then no, multiply by 10. No. Trying to think of how we can parse that as an integer value, because I think if I try and run this now, I have a feeling that what we're logging here is going to fail because it's not going to know how to process a planet ID, which is a float value. But let's go take a look at the log. Let's see. Yeah, so it actually tried to go fetch that as a float value. And the response body that we got back is a whole bunch of HTML, which is probably saying like, we have no idea what you're looking for yet. It sent back a floor.
Can you do like value. A math floor or something? Isn't there like a floor? I mean, that's like JavaScript, right?
Yeah. If we can run JavaScript in here, let's try it. Can we do a math floor?
Does it know JavaScript?
Doesn't look like that's going to take that value. I wonder if we could process that as a pre-request script on the next request, like whatever we get in as that value, if we can
in the collection
an integer within the collection itself. I'm wondering whether that would work.
I didn't think scripts worked in like that.
I thought it still ran. I thought it still ran the code.
Okay, let's try. Let me look to see if I can find that math random snippet.
Okay. All right, so we're going to come back over here to where we get the planet value, and I'm going to add a pre-request script here. So we need to go get that value and then reset that value. So I'm going to do get planet value, and we're going to do PM variables dot get of planet 2. And then I want to set going to do PM variables dot set planet2 to be a parse int version. Oops, planet2 after the quote, and we're going to do a parse int of the planet value. So that should work. I'm going to test it up here. I'm just going to do like 35.5, and we'll see whether that comes back with planet 35. Oh, that's not going to work because it's not actually going to have that planet value. So I still need planet 2 up here. When we go get all of our planets, we basically don't want to write this. Well, it's not gonna set those values anyway. But if I come, well, let's see if this works. Let's go back to our flow. We'll see if this works. So go run this again. We'll open up the console. That worked that time. That worked, Joyce. So having that.
I wasn't paying attention. What'd you do?
So in the collection itself, let me go back to the collection. For where I'm fetching the planet, I wrote some pre-request script that basically said, go get whatever the variable value is.
Oh, okay.
And then parse that as an integer and reset the planet2. So I'm reading in planet2, resetting it as an integer and rewriting that as planet2. And that worked fine. So I'm going to go do that again over here for planet1.
So it's interesting. You're using local variables, not even a collection variable, but it still works in flows.
Well, the local variables work, but the collection variables, like it will not update collection variables.
Update. It won't mutate them. Yeah.
Flows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great success.
Yep. All right. So now we can go randomly grab those values. So I'm going to need this evaluate block in front of what I'm doing here. So I'm going to move these blocks around a little bit more so that we can kind of see what we need. So I'm going to go grab this value here again. And I'm going to add another block in between here. We'll do another evaluate, and I'll put in that same value here. We'll do the body count.
Do you want to collapse the sidebar, or will you need it?
No, I think we'll be okay for a minute. And then we'll pull this over to here.
Does the organization of these blocks bother anyone?
Yeah, so far it's
no. This is
right.
Great. This is great.
Okay, but I do need to connect that result over here to that planet. There we go. And then now we can evaluate the population and see whose population is the bigger population. And then we will. So at this point, we need to turn our lights back on and set a random color. And then
turn them off to turn them on back again.
And then we need to figure out whose population was greater.
Okay.
So we're taking in the population values here, but we need to kind of persist that down the chain. So in flows, I believe they used to call this a durable value.
Right.
And so now we want to come out here and we want to. Did they have that as?
They have variable
value now. Yeah, we're going to have to do that as a variable type. Let's see. So we're going to do that as a number.
God, I'm getting so many compliments in the chat right now.
your costume is definitely on point for sure. Okay, so that's not going to work that way. I want to save that output as a number. No, when I click on number, it like makes a completely separate block as an input to something else. It doesn't seem to want to save that result. Oh, because it's doing an evaluation and returning a number value, but we need to take that as an input to something else. But the blocks that we've got down here for our display any data received.
You should be able to assign a variable, I think, the way you just did.
There we go. Create variable. All right.
Okay.
And
well,
we'll call
that would
this.
have been.
So we'll call this planet 1 pop. Okay. And then we'll do the same on yours. Oops. Drag this out here, and that's create a variable. And we're going to call this planet 2 pop.
Why am I yellow?
I don't know.
It normally inherits from where you dragged.
Yeah. All right. So we've got your population. We got my population. Yeah, weird.
Okay.
It made mine gray. All right. All right. So we've got our population. So now we want to go through. We want to actually turn on our light and go set. So we're going to do a request here.
Send.
And I need to choose my environment because I need to talk to my Govee light. And I'm going to make that request in here. And I'm going to device control. I'm going to turn my light back on. When that succeeds, I'm going to do another request. I'm going to choose my environment again. And that request is going to be Govee device control. And I'm going to set the color. And that's going to just choose a random color for us. And then I'm going to go add these blocks down here for Joyce as well. Oops.
You have to do it in 2 separates?
Yeah, I think if you just set the color, I don't know if that'll automatically turn the light on.
Okay.
Like with NanoLeaf, for example, I can go into NanoLeaf and say, turn my NanoLeaf, orange and white for Postman, and it'll automatically turn them on because it sees that you want to do that. But I don't know if every API is going to do that. So it's better to just be explicit and say, we want to explicitly turn it on here. So now I'm going to set the environment for Joyce and set that same thing. So we're going to turn Joyce's lamp on. And then when that succeeds...
My lightsaber.
Oh, we're not allowed to say the word.
I totally forgot what they're actually called. Light sword.
Oh my God,
sword? I'm so sorry. I was trying so hard not to say a certain word that I said it.
That's all right. All right, so then we're going to set a random color on yours. And now we can evaluate whose population was greater. And then what do we want to do based on whose population is greater? Do we turn off the other person's light, or do we try to, set the brightness to 0 or something like that?
I like that, where the winner gets like a real bright and then the loser gets shut off. So it'll both turn on, it'll both turn off and on, and then change color, and then you'll see. It's almost like Rochambeau.
A little bit, yep.
Yeah.
All right, so now we need to go find those variables that we made. So we're not going to be dealing with our output body here. We actually need to go get those variable values. Those are going to be inputs into this next block. So we need to evaluate those as incoming values here. So we have our population in here. Okay, so what I think we can do here is we can go get a variable value. And we're going to set that in here as an input. And then we're going to do another get a variable, and this is going to be planet 2 population. And this is also going to come in here as values. So now what I'm hoping we can do...
Shouldn't it go in as a separate key?
How do we add other... Okay, yep, it is another key. Okay, so we'll do planet 1 pop. And then we'll do another one as planet 2 pop. And we'll move yours into that one. Then we'll say if planet 1 pop is greater than planet 2 pop, then output true. Otherwise, output false. So let's see what this can do for us here.
I feel like I can write FQL at this point off the top of my head.
All right, so we got a Boolean value where we're comparing the populations, and we'll return either a true or false based on that. So based on that result, then we want to say if we want to do an if else block here. So So if it was true, what do we do? So if it was true, if my population was greater than yours,
brightness.
then so we've got a couple of things that need to happen here. So we're going to generate a request for my environment where we set my brightness to be 100%. Now this brightness is actually hard-coded into the collection. So I'm going to have to go actually make that variable value. So we'll set this to brightness value.
And set a default, probably? It's not defined right now, right?
It's not going to be defined. We could define it at a collection level as a default value. So we can come in here and we'll set it in here.
You know, you can set default data in flows too at the start block.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of silly to do it just for brightness, but you could.
Okay. Well, let's see, is there a way to refresh this? There we go. So there's our value here. So we'll set this to 100 for our brightness. Oops, 100. So we'll set mine to 100. We also need another one here that sets yours to 0. So this will be send a request. This is going to use Joyce's environment. And we will set your brightness value.
Womp womp.
0. Womp womp. Oops. Set that to 0. And then we'll change the color on that one to be Joyce's color. All right, so that's if it's true. So I'm going to move these up here if that's true.
Okay.
And then we need to do basically the same thing down here. If it was false, then I want to set mine off and set yours to be 100% brightness. So we'll do the request again. So we will do device control.
It's getting exciting. We have stakes
0.
in the game. Yeah.
We're almost there. We'll set that environment to mine. So we'll set, no, I don't want to set all of them, just this one.
0.
So I'll set mine to 0, and then we'll chain another request off of here. And we'll add Joyce's environment on this one. So we'll make this one pink. And we're going to do Govee control and set the brightness
100.
100. Okay.
Oops. You have to zoom out. Wait, what's that one connected to?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
I accidentally clicked on the just on the workspace somewhere. Okay, so if it's false, we're gonna set yours.
We gotta collapse the sidebar. We gotta zoom out, show everyone the magnitude of our spaghetti bowl.
We got a lot going on here. Let's just pull them up this way. There we go. All right. So let's go all the way back to the very beginning here. So when we start off, let me zoom in so we can look at these blocks a little better.
Collapse the sidebar.
Collapse this one.
Collapsing.
So we're going to send a request to turn off both of our lights. So we're going to turn off my light. We're going to turn off Joyce's light. And then we're going to say, go get all the planets so that we get that count of, 60 planets. And then here we're saying, go pick a random value. Now, there is still the possibility that we're going to run into here where we both get the same random value. So we might need a condition of what if they're the same, but yeah. But then we're going to go get each of those planets, and then we're going to do a check to see what the population is of those planets. We're going to basically write those variable values. So we're going to store that population value. And then once that's done, we're going to go turn the device on, and we're going to set our devices each to a random color. And then from there, we chained off of here to say, go take those population values and compare them. And if that evaluates, yep, and that's our battle here. And so if that worked out to be true, then it's going to set my brightness to 100 and set Joyce to 0. Otherwise, it'll set Joyce's brightness to 100 and set mine to 0.
So Arlemy suggests, and we'll only click this if you know how to get out of that view, but in the start, the menu at the bottom, there's that full screen, the 2 arrows.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get out. Okay, you clicked it already.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, it's just a toggle?
No, it's not a toggle. So if you're zoomed in, then it'll zoom out to where it tries to fit everything on one screen. But we have too many blocks to fit anyway.
Okay.
Because there's a maximum zoom out that we can do, and we're already maximum zoomed out.
Max zoom. Okay.
Yep.
Watch there be an error anyways.
Yeah. So we haven't tested this last part yet. So we haven't tested the
running.
Yep. But we are running the whole thing.
It's calculating.
All right. So we're turning on some lights, maybe.
Whoa! Wait, we both. What?
Yep. So our lights came on. They set them each to random color. And it looks like it stopped in here. It stopped at this evaluation of was it true or false. So we need to zoom in over here and see what happened. So the expression ended unexpectedly. I think we need that result actually to come in here as our key. Maybe? Nope.
So that top one is also the event trigger versus the data passing along. Did it stop completely at that block?
It stopped here saying, yeah, it couldn't run at that point.
You do have to have something go into the top hole.
Okay. Is that just coming off the result trigger. Then? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just pull that into here then. Let's see. So that result is going to come in. Yeah. And then if it's true or false, so maybe we don't need that as the data value then. Do I delete that as the data value? Or do I still chain that to the data value?
Who knows?
I don't know. We'll try it.
Try it both. Okay. Our lights turned off, so I know it's running.
Yep.
You're zoomed in very heavily, so I can't see what else is going on. Wow, 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 wow.
All right, so it's coming down to the evaluation here. We can see the little animation. No, it still failed at that block again. So the expression ended unexpectedly. So we need to figure out what happened here. How do we determine
what's being passed through?
Oh, you know what? I wonder if we need to do this as instead of the evaluate block, if we just need this to be the if condition instead of the evaluate. So we have, let's try this. So I'm going to do planet 1 pop, and we'll do another key here. We'll call this planet 2 pop.
Oh, circumnavigate the evaluate block?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Clear this one out here. Because yeah, I think that's maybe confusing things. So if I delete that block and we input into here and input into here, and then we still need to drag from the success over here to actually trigger
event
that
trigger.
Block. So we'll have.
A is suggesting to see what went wrong in the console. That's what I would have thought. Ian is just flying by the seat of his pants and very confident. Yo, why is the put?
Oh, it actually gave us a DNS error. So it looks like one of the Govee controls we didn't set an environment properly because it didn't know how to look up the host name. So we'll have to double check that we set the environment properly on all these. So those are set properly. Those are set properly. So that should have worked. All right, well, let's clear out all of this and we'll see what else we get here. So now that we've taken that evaluate block out, maybe this will be all we need here.
Again.
All right.
My light turned off. It's kicking.
So they turned off. Yep. So we got through here. We've got our random values. So they're turned back on. We got random colors.
Okay, it's gonna stop. What?
Into here. Oh, what happened?
Wait, we're both. What happened?
What just happened? Oh, no, one of these puts failed again. So which one failed? So if we look at the request body, it looks like it didn't fill in.
Didn't resolve.
It didn't pick up any of the variables.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't pick up the host name. It didn't pick up the. Oops, if we scroll down here, it also didn't pick up when we look at the request body. It actually didn't pick up the MAC address or the device.
Were you using a different request? I wonder if there's some bug, but like the same request worked earlier.
Yeah, so these are all set to set brightness. I think what's failing is the set color.
Oh.
Yep, I think that's the problem here. The problem is right here on this block. This is the one that failed, actually. So if we zoom in on this one, for setting your color, I forgot to choose the environment.
Okay, good eye.
So
no
I
thanks.
don't want to update all of them. Just want to update that one. So that will fix changing your color, but it still didn't come through in like correct setting the brightness based on the evaluation here. So you were saying we still need some kind of data input here for what's happening. So it looks like we still need to control something off of this. And I think that's where I'm not sure what we need. Because I would have thought that the if condition here, we're taking in these values here, and then we're running that FQL. But it looks like this data down here at the bottom still needs some kind of input. Let's see.
I don't think it needs an input because what's evaluating data is whatever evaluates in the FQL block field.
Is it? We know that for
that's
sure.
That's how I wouldn't. Nope, not at all.
Because there's a little green nub on the side of this, which makes me think that this has to have an input of some kind. But I'm not sure how we would get that input here. So let's see.
You know, I'm on another tab and I'm looking at Flows snippets because they have like examples of how to use every block in a public workspace. So the one that's similar is there is a Flows snippet. I'll drop a link here.
Okay.
In the if you want to look with me on that.
So let's pull that in here. All right, let's see what we got here.
So under the flows.
Oh. So this is taking an input of being either true or false, and it still needs some data in
There's
here as
also
well.
an if evaluate block.
Flow snippets, if evaluate. Okay. So we have expected length. We have our input string.
But see how the if block just has the result going into the
if true, false.
And then what's feeding into the data?
It looks like it's coming from this hello world string. It's kind of hidden behind it here. But if I hover over it, we see the
but we have two inputs, right?
Well, we have two inputs into the evaluate. And then the if block is taking data, and that looks like that data line, when I hover over that, this one is highlighting down here, the hello world. So it looks like the hello world is the data coming in.
And that's an older version of the if block, I believe.
Yeah. All right, so let's try and figure this out. What do we need to do here? So it looks like we may still need that evaluate block after all. So let's go grab that evaluate again. And we'll go grab these.
Max S is giving you moral support. Don't get me wrong, but it's so satisfying when seasoned engineers get stuck. I can relate.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate the support.
Help us, Max S.
You're our only hope.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take these in as our inputs to this evaluate again. Let's move these here. Bring that into here, and this will be, oops. Bring that into here. There we go. And we'll call this planet 1 pop. And then we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to call this one planet 2 pop. And we'll drag that in from here. So that's our evaluation done. And then we want to check whether those things were the same. Oops. And output a Boolean of true or false based on that. And then...
Oh, yeah. Then you don't have to compare in the if.
So let's clear this. And we still need to do an if check here. But this still takes that data. So that result is going to come in here as that data. And then if it's true, we've got these other things branching off of here. So if it's true, we're going to come over to these. And if it's false, come over to these. Let's pull these down here just so we can see this a little better. Okay, so if it's true, then it should go up there. But we still need... Do we actually need a condition up here at the top, though? Or is this just going to evaluate as true or false based on the incoming data?
I don't think you do, but I thought you need the event trigger.
If I put it up to there, then it's looking for...
Yeah, but it doesn't do anything.
We'll try. Yeah,
May the 4th be with you from Access.
Yay. All right, let's see where we get here.
Off.
Okay, so we get those values coming in, but it stops at that point. Yeah.
Maybe delete the event trigger? I thought you needed one, but maybe you don't. Lights off.
So what I'm noticing is the animation coming into here is happening before some of these other things are finishing.
Oh.
So if we look at the animation, if we look at the dots of what's happening here, you'll see an animation coming from the evaluate to the if block before this animation up here at the top actually finishes. And so
do you need to loop my send request to the evaluate as well, or is maybe my thing lagging just the way they're kicking them off?
That's a good question. Let's try that, because maybe yours is finishing faster than mine is, or something like that. And then it seemed to be getting into that evaluate block sooner. So we'll see if that helps.
Wait, now it broke earlier. Nope. Or is it thinking? Have we hit our rate limit?
No, it's not a rate limit, but it's definitely evaluating this before these animations seem to finish. Somehow it's getting into this evaluate much too early.
There is like a way to do a delay, but I don't know why we would have to do that. Because the event trigger that's what the event trigger is for. So it doesn't get ahead of it.
Well, what I'm wondering is we're setting these population values in the variable, and I'm wondering if this is detecting like, oh, this variable is set, now I can run this block.
Oh, I didn't know it could do that. That's pretty neat.
I don't know if that's what it is doing. That's my curiosity here, because it seems that as soon as these are set, this evaluation block is running. If we run this again, as soon as it gets to here, I think we see this evaluate block light up. So we'll watch for the animation coming in here for Planet 1 and Planet 2 pop and see whether these run right away. So I think that might be the trigger that's happening here. Yeah, as soon as those got sent, it's evaluating this before these things are even finished.
And you can't drag it from the initial one? Oh, yeah, I don't know how to do that with the variables.
Because we need to get those variable values in here as inputs, but not until both of our lights are turned on and we've set a color.
Well, Ian, what do you want to do? Our time together is coming to an end. We haven't even gotten to the Star Wars quotes. I want to do a giveaway. I want to give away for this. What do you want to do? Ian, this is your show.
Yeah,
I can get up and start using my light. Like
we'll just start swinging them around.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to figure this out. We'll have to talk to the Flows team about how to actually get these values into that evaluate block. But I think it's because we're setting that value that's also triggering this evaluate block to happen too early.
Trigger.
Yeah, so we need some way of saying like, hold on to all of this until all of this other stuff is finished, and then go finish running the flow. So let's talk about the giveaway, and then we'll just wrap up and see if we have
Do you
any
want to
shout
bring the
outs.
chat back on the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll shut this off over here. We'll bring our chat back over
My head
here.
hurts. Oh, and my head sweating inside the metal and with
Ye-
my roundness.
It's
Okay.
a great costume though. I think I'll put my Hello Kitty helmet back on just to
be festive.
To join you in the discomfort of being in a costume. Here we go. Hopefully y'all can still hear me okay.
Yeah, it actually sounds very Vader-esque.
Well, this is the way. So as Joyce mentioned at the beginning of the stream, we do have a giveaway that we want to do. We do have a Postman bobblehead.
It is actually a little bit hard to hear you.
Is it? Okay.
And I'm so sorry. Is that a Mandalorian helmet?
It's a clone trooper helmet that that somebody designed to include Hello Kitty ears and a bow on it as well. But it's typically a clone trooper helmet, and it's got a really cool red visor in it. You can kind of see the red reflecting off it. Yeah, it's really neat to look out of, but I can't wear it with my glasses, so it's actually really hard for me to see stuff when I'm wearing it.
We can't hear you. You can't see, so
yeah.
It's a cool helmet.
So Max says Ian didn't lie after all. He does have a costume. Yep. Well, I mean, I'm wearing a Mandalorian hoodie. That counts. So this is the way.
Okay, how do we want to do the giveaway?
So we had a lot of folks kind of chiming in and trying to help us along the way. I think Max S was pretty helpful. Let's see. So we had someone at the very beginning guess Tatooine, where BB-8 was from.
Yes.
So are we giving away multiple things, or are we giving away one thing, Joyce?
Yeah, let's give away the two. So hopefully the other person heard to contact us through Twitter. Just reach out to us through Get Postman on Twitter.
So this was the user on YouTube, Juvexor. Not sure how to pronounce it. Yep. So if that person on YouTube can reach out to us, we'll drop our Twitter handle in here. So
we'll ship you something, your choice.
Twitter.com Get Postman. So if you want to contact us on Twitter and let us know that you were that YouTube user, that rattles great. So that'll be for one of our prizes, and then Max S. Definitely here for the moral support and giving us some help along the way. So Max also from YouTube as well. So Max, if you can also reach out to us as well and let us know, just reach out to us on Twitter, and we've got the choice of a bobblehead or the Postman hoodie, and we'll go from there. So sweet. All right, I think we're good. Yeah, next week we have OpenAI's Open API with, what was it called again?
LangChain. Language chaining.
Language
you can think
chain.
Of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna be there just to kind of introduce. We've got Dabo and
Mike Ralphson.
Mike, yes, thank you. So Dabo and Mike are basically going to be running the session, but I'll be there to do intros in case you missed it and the wrap up at the end and so on. But it'll be mostly them. I'll probably have my camera off during most of the session, but I'll be there to say hi to everyone. And then at the end of the month, we've got Intergalactic coming up again. We've got the advanced testing techniques again for Postman. And again, it's free to register, so please go check that out. And we will we'll definitely see you on there. Let's see, what else have we got going on, Joyce? Any shout outs from you?
We have a lot of events. So in May and June, there's a lot of people from our team traveling around the world, primarily primarily US, Europe, and Asia. So if you want to see us in person, check out our events page. It's like at postman.com/events, maybe.
Yep. Yeah. And we post in our community forum as well for the events that we're going to. I'm going to be in Chicago at the end of the month. I'll be in Indianapolis at the end of June. Joyce, I know you're going to be traveling a little bit.
I'll be at
going to be traveling.
New York City. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got folks all over the place. So definitely come find us if we have a booth, or if you just see us. We'll typically be wearing our orange Postman t-shirts or hoodies. So definitely come up and say hi.
And we have new swag. So usually when we travel, we have at least a couple giveaways. So come say hi.
I want to get one of those ball caps. I love ball caps.
I'll get you one. I'll get
all
you
right.
one.
We need hoodies, or we need beanies too. We need like orange beanies with the big Postman logo on there too.
We had limited edition Pacific Northwest beanies made.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Joyce, for hanging out. Appreciate the effort put into the BB-8 costume. I think you definitely win the costume prize for today.
You made me villain red, but okay.
All right, we'll run it again. Just we'll at least change your light to some other color.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, well, hopefully it'll be some other color. It'll be some
no,
random
it's gonna
color.
error before.
No, you're still a villain. It knows. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out today. We'll catch you next week on the live stream. And thanks again, Joyce. Happy Star Wars Day to everyone, wherever you are. And we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Goodbye. Thank you.